Islam Makhachev tells UFC to stop playing games, casts doubts on champ versus champ match. The newly lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev, called out featherweight title holder Alexander Volkanovski after his win over Charles Oliveira at UFC 280. Islam Makhachev cast doubts on Alexander Volkanovski's super fights in Australia, UFC's playing games. While an Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski fight in Perth appeared to be a done deal following UFC 280, it appears that the UFC isn't so sure. "I'm very impressed by UFC champ Islam Makhachev win over Charles Oliveira," stated Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier praises Islam Makhachev, the new UFC lightweight champion, for his immaculate performance over Charles Oliveira. Before we continue with today's release, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, and also hit the subscribe button for more videos like this. Thanks in advance. Islam Makhachev tells UFC to stop playing games, casts doubts on champ versus champ match. After his victory over Charles Oliveira at UFC 280 on October 22nd, newly crowned lightweight champion Islam Makhachev called out featherweight title holder Alexander Volkanovski. Volkanovski, 25-1, is on a 22-fight winning streak and has successfully defended his 145-pound belt 4 times. He is now recognized as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Makhachev, 23-1, is ranked 3rd and hopes to take the top slot. Makhachev's coach and childhood friend Khabib Nurmagomedov declared after his UFC 280 victory against Oliveira. Islam Makhachev is the top fighter. Not in lightweight, he is the best fighter pound for pound. Charles Oliveira is the number 2 pound for pound, right? He had finished Charles. Our objective now is to fly all the way to Australia and face the pound for the king, Volkanovski, continued Nurmagomedov. Judging from a tweet made by Makhachev on November 5th, 2022, 1 p.m., it seems like Makhachev and Volkanovski would meet in the ring at UFC 284 in February, in Perth. I'm not sure what UFC wants. February, Australia, or March, Vegas. I honestly don't care about location and opponent. I never choose opponents. Just send a contract and stop playing games, Makhachev wrote. Islam Makhachev cast down on Alexander Volkanovski's super fight in Australia. UFC is playing games. Going further, it seems like the fight, which seems like a done deal between Volkanovski and Makhachev, doesn't seem like a done deal after all. After Islam Makhachev easily defeated Charles Oliveira at UFC 280, it appeared that 145-pound kingpin Alexander Volkanovski was up next for the new lightweight champion. Given that the UFC was returning to Perth in February 2023, it was most likely in Australia. However, Makhachev believes that this is not the case. Makhachev was undoubtedly hoping that now that he held the title, his career would become much easier. Instead, he sounded irritated with the UFC's failure to finalize a deal for his next title defense. "I'm not sure what the UFC wants. February, Australia, or March, Vegas," Makhachev tweeted. "I honestly don't care about place or opponent. I never pick them. Stop playing games and provide a contract." Expressing a little confusion and frustration over the logistics surrounding his next fight. Volkanovski went to great efforts to ensure that he was the next man in line for a chance at the 155-pound crown. He sped through rehab on an injured hand in order to fill in for Makhachev versus Oliveira at UFC 280. He did a full press run, playing up his role and his ambition to become a 2-time champion. Then after winning in Abu Dhabi, the Great climbed into the cage for a face-off. The notion that Makhachev and Volkanovski might not fight after all is preposterous. However, when it comes to a champion versus champion match, there are a lot of moving elements. Is Makhachev's manager requesting more money to face the 145-pound champion in his homeland? He most likely should be. And if the UFC refuses to pay it, perhaps they will simply say, "Fine, you can face Beneil Dariush in Las Vegas." That is all hypothetical. But it is also entirely realistic, given how the UFC typically negotiates. And despite the anticipation, there has to be a reason Makhachev versus Volkanovski in Australia isn't signed, sealed, and delivered. Also, Dariush doesn't buy the idea of Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski super fight. Dariush recently informed Bella Michaels of ABC affiliate KRGW that Volk Makhachev might not be a done deal quite yet, may not be the greatest option even if it is. "I don't know who am I fighting. The UFC is talking about making Makhachev and Volkanovski happen. But that's not for sure either. If you think about it, there's people Volkanovski can fight and there's people Islam can fight. And then they can build that fight up in the future, the lightweight champion and the featherweight champion. We'll see what happens. I'm not really sure," he started. Darius, who hammered Dariush, who defeated favorite hotshot Mateusz Gamrot in 3 rounds for a unanimous decision earlier on the UFC 280 main card, Dariush's 7th consecutive victory dating back to 2018. Dariush may not have a big name, but he's been working hard to change that with his skills inside the cage. This could be ready to pay off with a title shot. If not, a championship eliminator between Dariush and Oliveira might help clear out the contender situation at the back end. But if the UFC determines Volkanovski will continue at 145 pounds for the time being, or if the two can't come to an agreement, or if the promotion deems Dariush still lacks the star power required to tentpole a pay-per-view, either of these men who emerge as a winner of the fight between Dustin and Michael Chandler be a ready-made challenge for Makhachev. Add to that the reality that Poirier, possibly the most renowned non-Conor McGregor lightweight in the world, was soundly defeated by retired lightweight GOAT and Makhachev, friend and mentor Khabib Nurmagomedov, back in 2019. Poirier vs Chandler appears to have some genuine bad blood, which, knowing these two, means another master lesson in hand-to-hand combat. One amusing aspect of this is that Makhachev is still relatively fresh to the highest levels in his division, having just recently defeated Oliveira. As a result, he is yet to face most of the killers at lightweight, the UFC's deepest and most talented weight class. That means new matchmaking opportunities with top-tier players like Poirier or Chandler. These guys are in 3rd place on the UFC 281 pay-per-view, which is fairly good considering the main and co-main are both title fights. If they come out, this equation might alter in an instant, especially if Makhachev continues to run into problems. Makhachev wins 23-1 in MMA with his victory against Oliveira, 12-1. It also elevated him to the top of the UFC's official pound-for-pound rankings. He is now ranked 3rd after Israel Adesanya at number 2 and Alexander Volkanovski at number 1. With the lightweight title in his possession, Makhachev has made it plain that he intends to replace Volkanovski at the top pound-for-pound rankings. Do you think that the fight between Makhachev vs Volkanovski will take place? And if not, who will be a better replacement for Volkanovski? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Lastly, for today's video, Dustin Poirier is very impressed by UFC champ Islam Makhachev's win over Charles Oliveira. Dustin Poirier praises Islam Makhachev, the new UFC lightweight champion, for his immaculate performance over Charles Oliveira. Makhachev 23-1 MMA, 12-1 UFC, defeated Oliveira in the 2nd round to win the vacant title at UFC 280. Poirier was stunned by what Makhachev did to him after being submitted by Oliveira at UFC 269. "Man, I'm impressed," Poirier said to Yahoo Sports. "I'm quite amazed. He went in there and did it as smoothly as you could go in there. He has no scars, cuts, or bruises, and he's a world champion. That was a great night, man. He has really impressed me." Makhachev not only had Oliveira on the ground, but a left hook launched the fight-ending sequence. Poirier praised Makhachev for filling out his skill set, despite the fact that he already possessed a top-tier ground game. "I mean, it's enormous," Poirier added. "You should. You can't be a fighter who has one thing in this day and age in mixed martial arts. You must be able to accomplish everything. You have to be a mixed martial artist, like he demonstrated." He went out there and injured Charles before defeating him at his own game. That is the most advanced level. Poirier, 28-7 MMA, 20-6 UFC. Fights former Bellator champion and UFC title contender Michael Chandler, 23-7 MMA, 2-2 UFC, at UFC 281 in New York on November 12th. And that is it for today's video, guys. Let us know what you think in the comment section below about the intended fight between Volkanovski and Makhachev. Also, who do you think will emerge as a winner on Saturday between Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. See you next time.